China ignored Trump. Just one day later, Trump shouted a statement to China in front of the whole world, leaving the media completely stunned. Trump made this statement during a live interview on a U.S. media outlet that was broadcast globally. It seemed that in order to emphasize the seriousness of his words, White House spokesperson Caroline and U.S. presidential envoy Grenell immediately followed up and repeated statements with the same meaning to the outside world. Trump clearly expressed his willingness to reach an agreement with China and was optimistic about it. This not only left all the media in the United States completely stunned but also the media around the world. Everyone was still confused as to why the United States suddenly announced the exemption of tariffs on some Chinese electronic products. According to reports from media outlets such as Bloomberg, during the interview, Trump evaded questions about the exemption of tariffs on some Chinese electronic products. Instead, he continuously emphasized the crucial importance of negotiating with China, stating that this was the way out of the current situation. This was completely different from what he had said just one day before. At that time, China had just announced that it would ignore the United States' possible further unjust imposition of additional tariffs, as it had already become a mere numbers game. Trump's immediate reaction was to loudly proclaim that 90 countries around the world were negotiating with him and that these negotiations with the 90 countries were of great significance. CNN reported in its latest report that the $6.5 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds that are due to mature in June might be the last straw that breaks the back of the White House. It has only been 2 weeks into this month, and the tariff and trade wars have been both brief and perilous. And it is obvious that the White House is the side that was not fully prepared. As a result, the weaknesses of the United States have been exposed completely. Currently, the most noticeable and obvious major setback is in the bond market. A large amount of foreign capital has been selling off U.S. Treasury bonds and even fleeing the U.S. market. The United States is unable to repay the several $1 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds that are due in the near future, and the White House cannot afford the consequences. The chain reaction brought about by the terrifying option of defaulting on debts. In fact, in the final analysis, the U.S. government is really out of money. It should be noted that the United States is wealthy because of the wealth of the financial groups, not the government. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many poor people. Even if the Federal Reserve agrees to use the nuclear-powered printing press to print U.S. dollars, no one will accept them as readily as before. Because during this absurd tariff war, the Trump administration has squandered all the trust that the United States had with almost all of its allies and partners. So at this point, if Trump doesn't lay his cards on the table and convey his attitude of being willing to reach an agreement with China to the whole world through the media, what else can he do?